Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our regional webinar, dubbed Breaking Silence, Building Community, Tackling Stigma Through Collective Wellness. As we continue to mark Mental Health Awareness Month, that is normally marked in May every year, this year's 2026 theme is dubbed Stigma Grows in Silence. Healing begins in community. So we gather here today to confront the silence that perpetuates stigma in our civic spaces. Mental health and wellness are not just a luxury. They are a necessity for resilience, dignity, and sustained civic engagement. So today we are going to discuss about stigma. And allow me to give you a background of why this webinar is here this afternoon. So mental health is a cornerstone of overall well-being, productivity, and social cohesion. So according to World Health Organization, there is no health without mental health, who estimates that 1 in 8 people globally live with a mental health condition. Yet stigma and lack of access to care remain major barriers to well-being. They also say that untreated mental health challenges contribute to reduced resilience, strained relationships, and diminished capacity to engage meaningfully in civic and community life. In civic spaces, specifically, in this context why this webinar is here, the impact of poor mental health is particularly acute. And when I say acute, I mean severe. Civic actors, including community leaders, youth advocates, and human rights defenders, often operate under hostile environments, marked by political repression, social stigma, and limited psychosocial support. Silence around mental health perpetuates stigma, discourages help seeking, and also undermines resilience. This is especially visible in East Africa, where civic actors in Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania have continued to face persistent volatility, harassment, and emotional strain that compromise their ability to sustain engagement. Regionally, there is a growing recognition that mental health and wellness is not just an individual issue, but a collective necessity for sustaining democratic movements and community solidarity. Creating safe spaces for dialogue, sharing lived experiences, and embedding culturally grounded wellness practices are critical steps toward breaking silence and tackling stigma. Together, across Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, we will explore how storytelling, lived experiences, and practical tools can help us to build communities of healing and solidarity in line with this year's theme. So I am joined by individuals from different spaces and experts from their different fields. And without much ado, allow me to invite them to introduce themselves without any particular order. So my able panelists, karibuni sana.
Asante, thank you.
You can
Nerea.
unmute. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Thank you, Nerea. This is Doto. I am a counseling psychologist from Tanzania and a mental health and psychosocial support specialist. I'm so happy and glad to be a part and parcel of this move. I think, Inuka, you've done something great to bring us together, discussing matters concerning civic space, but also issues concerning mental health and the individual's well-being. Actually, even us as panelists, we are not immune when it comes to mental health. Thank you.
Yes, my name is, yes, Nerea, my name is Alphonse Lusako, a human rights advocate from Tanzania, but also I'm a human rights defender. For more than a decade, I have been doing human rights works. And sometimes, we human defenders, we think that we are very tough, we are very strong, we are not subject matter of well-being. So I think today we will share some stories so to be held by this professional psychologist. Thank you.
Thank you, Alphonse.
Wow, thank you so much, Nerea. My name is Editor Ochieng. I'm the Executive Director for Feminists for Peace, Rights and Justice Center in Kibera, based in Kenya. I want to appreciate the organizers for creating this important space and also appreciate all participants joining us from across the region for this timely conversation. As civic actors and human rights defenders, mostly of the time we spend time supporting our communities, advocating for justice every single day, yet we are also human and vulnerable to stress, burnout, trauma, mental health breakdown, especially while working in difficult and political challenging environment. I'm really happy to be part of this discussion as we reflect together on healing, resilience, and collective care. Asante.
Thank you.
My name is Anne Manyasa. I am a counseling psychologist and a mental expert. And I am honored to be in this panel to discuss civic issues and mental health wellness, the impact that it has on people who are in that space and the people that they represent. So thank you and karibu nyinyi wote.
Thank you, Anne.
Hey, good afternoon, good evening, good morning from wherever you're watching from. My name is Morgan Muhindo. I'm an advocate of the High Court practicing here in Uganda. I'm also a human rights defender with about 7 to 8 years of experience, but also I've been a victim of both primary and secondary trauma. So this is a very timely discussion for me, but also I look forward to learning from the different experiences, especially from the able members of this panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Morgan. My name is Nerea. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. I currently work at Inuka Kenyan Sisi as a program wellness officer. Allow me to give you a brief of who Inuka is. Inuka Kenya is a grassroots social movement organization that was founded in 2009, and it envisions a peaceful, united, and well-governed Kenya. Our philosophy is dignity before development, and it empowers the citizens to demand good governance and also accountability in order to improve their lives. Our wellness program, which this webinar is actually anchored on, is a flagship initiative that was created to provide safe, restorative space for civil actors and the larger community who often faces stress, burnout, and threats due to their work in governance and accountability. Under this program, we have different services. Allow me to just mention but a few. One of our services is healing and restoration. Under this service, we provide counseling, retreats, and peer support sessions to address mental, emotional, and physical well-being. We also have a resource mapping where we link civic actors to legal, health, and financial support networks. And then we also do mentorship, memorialization, and documentation of civic journeys. And then we also do community engagement. And basically, that's a brief of who we are. So allow me to start the webinar by posing a few questions to our panelists. If you look at the title of the webinar, it's talking about breaking silence, building community, tackling stigma through collective well-being. And this question first goes to Alphonse. Alphonse, if you look at the space you are in a human rights space. How does silence around mental health show up in your civic space? You can unmute.
Yes, Nerea. For the context of Tanzania, the issue of mental health, let me discuss it in national level, then at institutional level and at individual level. You know, as a country, we have a well-established legal frameworks, legal and the policy frameworks supporting the mental health in your country, but it is rarely or scarcely discussed openly about mental illness at national level. You know, the focus of the government is on political and economical issues, and mental health is not agenda at national level. But also when we see at institutional level, for instance, civil society organizations, non-government organizations, particularly to these human rights organizations. And I have been working with the human rights organization for more than 10 years. So I worked with the Legal Human Rights Center, Tanzania Human Defenders Coalitions. You can see how the issue of mental wellness within these human rights organizations is not a priority. You see, there is no even policies which are addressing the issue of mental wellnesses within human rights organizations. So at national level, you see that even the government, despite of having these laws, mental health acts and national policies on mental wellness, but it is not agenda for the government. We are not looking mental illness as a serious problem in our country. And that's why the focus of the government at national level is on the political and the economical issues. And when we see human rights organizations, which is dealing with human rights issues in our country, probably, as I mentioned, Legal Human Rights Center, Tanzania Human Defenders, and there is no even policy within those organizations addressing the issue of mental illness. That is a serious issue. But there is initiatives which are being undertaken by Legal Human Center. And I think early 2025, I was contacted as a man of recognized human defender so as to discuss on mental health to human rights defenders. So there is initiatives now is undertaken by Legal Human Rights Center, and they did a baseline survey on issue of mental health to human rights defenders. And I think we are going now to take serious this matter because they want to enclose even policy within organizations. So the status quo at institutional level, of course, it is emerging issues. I think we are going to push that agenda within human rights organizations and national level. Then at individual level, you know, most of the people, they think that disclosing your predicaments, your personal hardships is a weakness, particularly we human defenders. We think that we are very tough and we are problem solvers to others. We are comforter to others. And we think that we are not subject matter of well-being. So, for instance, I have my comrades who have been abducted. And there are two comrades, of course, who I know. And some of them, despite of being tortured, despite of being harassed and tortured, but there's my friend who was sodomized, was in fact back, so to say this. And when we rescued him, he talked about only tortures, but he never mentioned that he was sodomized. After 60 months, of course, he was crying alone several times. So I used to ask him why you were crying. He decided to disclose to me that, you know, Alphonse, these people, they fucked me back, they sodomized me, and they never disclosed these things to any person. So thinking that when he disclosed the issue of being sodomized, it will kill his reputation to the public. So after he talked to me, I decided to help him by connecting him with medical doctor and the psychologist. So at individual level, of course, few of people, I think they are ready to speak, to share their predicaments, their emotional struggles, but a large number of people, they think that is a weakness to disclose their weaknesses. So the status quo at national level, at the organizational level, and individual level, in the context of Tanzania, is that way. Though I think we have a very serious problem of mental health. You know, Tanzania, we are from a very fabricated elections on October 2025. Many people were killed. You know, we have national traumas, national stresses, but you don't see the effort of this legitimate government on addressing the issue of mental illness at country level. And they think political and economic issues is the only agenda, despite the fact that we have a national trauma, because a lot of Gen Z, a lot of people were killed in a particular country. So to me, for my assessment, I think Tanzania, all Tanzanians who witnessed a particular election, we are under national traumas, stresses, and we need to be healed at country level. But you don't see the efforts of government leaders to think that we should heal people who have been affected in different places of our country. That is my briefing, Nerea.
Thank you, Alphonse. That was very, very comprehensive. I think I'll be coming back to you with some questions on what you have just mentioned, but thank you for sharing that deep. I think I would also like to ask the same question to Morgan. In your context, Uganda, do you think there's a stigma that is associated with mental health and wellness?
Yes, of course, the answer is yes. Especially, that's, some of these issues are historical, but also societal in nature. That one, Uganda is highly a patriarchal society, but also very conservative society. So in most cases, those factors push human rights defenders and also victims of human rights violations into silence, because speaking out is looked at as some sort of a weakness. So, you know, that male chauvinism, that you have to be very strong. You shouldn't be a crybaby, you shouldn't be seen crying or even breaking down, so you don't have the room to show weakness. So, from my experience as a practitioner, I think there are around 2 cases that I've handled where issues of stigma have really impacted on mental health. And maybe in the due course of this discussion, I should be able to demonstrate how breaking that silence was very important for the communities. One of the cases I handled, I think, was around 2019, before the COVID breakdown, and were representing victims of forced eviction in the Albertine region, and a couple of families were brought apart because, or they were separated because of the evictions, and we interacted with men who could barely provide for their families, and that alone broke them down. So, and it affected their mental health, of course, but they could not open up to fellow community members, but it's now us who are representing them in court that they would open up to us, and then somehow we would manage to provide financial support so that they're able to provide for their families. For context, and I think this is not even just about Uganda alone, most of the African societies, men are the providers or the breadwinners. So when a man loses the source of income, they lose some of the factors of production, like land, they stop being productive, then that means they can't provide for their families. So society looks at them as less of men, but also even their own families. So those are some of the issues, but these are issues that are very common here in Uganda, especially issues to do with land grabbing. And land grabbing comes with a lot of human rights violations because the state is involved. Most of the perpetrators are also backed by the state, protected by the state, that even when you push back, most likely you don't get the justice that you want, or even if you get it, it comes after a very long time, and that long time alone is traumatizing, and it causes a lot of stigma, and in most cases people do not know even how to open up and speak about these things. And I think most of the victims are the human rights defenders within those communities who tend to speak up for the community. Us who are maybe based in the city who may not be directly affected, but the people who are in the communities, the human rights defenders who are based in the same communities with the victims, face the biggest trauma. I think last year, 2 years ago, I received the case of a gentleman who was flogged like a snake, but also recorded and his videos shared all over social media, and he had to run out of the community for from the community rather for almost 2 years. He just returned to his home a few months ago. And by the time he gets to the community, the wife has already divorced him. The children, he cannot trust them, so he has to begin afresh. So those are some of the issues that happen here in Uganda. So my quick answer is yes. Is yes.
Thank you, Morgan. That is quite deep. Allow me to go to Editor. Editor, I'm aware that you work in Kenya and you're also a human rights defender. Please help us to understand how also silence shows up in your line of work, especially around human rights defenders. Karibu sana.
Thank you so much, Nerea. First of all, I want to say the work that I do is very sensitive because I defend the rights of marginalized communities, groups, and other people like LBQ persons, and also defending controversial topics like abortion rights. And these are things that are not accepted in the communities that we live today. My work has been constantly demonized, particularly by the community, religious leaders, and even human rights defenders that we work with. So working in marginalized communities and discussing sensitive issues like even women's rights, SRHR, and justice, we always attract stigma, backlash, and I've talked about demonization, but again, physical attacks, online harassment, or gender-based violence every single day. That has been my life. I remember vividly in around 2004, whereby femicide cases increased in Kenya. Particularly, we realized it was women who identified differently, and sex worker women were the ones who were really vulnerable, and they were killed every single day. So when we were outside there demanding for justice and their well-being as humans, it was not easy. One of the member of parliament in Kenya, because he's the one who's pushing the family bill after Uganda, it has been really a serious agenda, and it has not been easy for people who identify differently. So when we were protesting, he said he saw 5 lesbian armies which that is the name that he called us. And because we didn't have any name, we said it is okay if we already said that we are 5 lesbian armies, then we are going to adopt to that name. So nowadays we call ourselves 5 lesbian army. So it was not easy for us after that, because he was talking on Twitter, now X, and then it came to our community platform, social media platform. Then now more than 150 men in my community were seated in my community, and they were saying, like, number one, they need to chase me out of the community because I'm a home breaker. I'm a GBV activist as well. And number two, because I was promoting immorality. Promoting immorality is defending queer rights in Kibera. So it was not easy, because all the time when you are attacked, you remain silent. All the time when you are attacked, you become so confused, because you ask yourself questions: where do I run to? Where do I go? What is next? And then the reality is, it also shakes the work that you do, because when they attack you, they bring different narrative that community, when they talk to the community members, people would feel like, no, editor should not be part of these communities. So again, I've realized that that is my personal story. And I've realized also many civic actors like us have suffered silently because of speaking about mental health is seen as weakness. And I want to agree with my colleague. Yet also, to stay silent can increase to attacks, isolation, and emotional pressure. So for example, in civic spaces, one of the things is work, and work is standard. Work is capitalism, especially in African countries. And this one is really dehumanizing, because people don't see you as human being. People see you like an asset who needs to work, and perform all the time, from 8 in the morning to 5 p.m. in the afternoon. So the day that you're supposed to rest also in this community also demands that on Saturday or Sunday, you need to be going to church. So it is difficult for people to realize that you need time to share your experiences, you need time to relax. And the constant stress has been there because of the formula of how we are working, the spaces that we've really created, because people want to see you serious. I look at myself like as a grassroots ED, and sometimes I'm really confused, because people will love me to be so serious. And as an extrovert, that is not my thing. So I work differently. And because I have also acknowledged that the spaces that we work in, number one, they are very toxic. But again, as much as the spaces are toxic, we also come from communities that are very toxic. So we bring toxic energy most of the time in the working space. But again, just being cognizant about that, we are like, no, we are forming an alternative community, especially as a feminist activist, where thereby mental health is a priority. So this situation has really pushed organizations like ours to really prioritize mental health, well-being, and also we came up with mental well-being policy. It is about our well-being as staff and activists around FPRJC who are working with us. It is about around rest. We also have mattress in our office space, whereby Nerea, if you feel like you are tired a bit and you need to relax, you just go and take 5 to 10 minutes nap, and then you come back when you are strong enough. The policy also realized the burnout, so we do our work plan earlier, so that at least we can create a very healthy working space for us. And we are really deliberate about it. And also safety measures. For example, we have CCTV in our office, but again, it is not to gag people to have conversation. Staff must have conversations. They must continue to gossip if they want to gossip. The safety measure is like we have a CCTV and it is about our security. So we only open our CCTV when we have security issues, not to gag the staff that we work with. We also constantly, we do our collective care in our spaces because already we've realized it is toxic. Then how about to build alternative space that we bring we bring rules in that space rather than going with a capitalist rules. And it is really dehumanizing and it makes staff not productive. Thank you so much. And back to you, Nerea.
Okay. Thank you, Edita, for trusting us with your experience. That must have been very traumatizing. But I'm also happy to realize that as an organization, you've adapted some wellness practices that seem to be working for you and also the rest of the team. So thank you very much. I'll be coming back to you a bit later. Before we continue, to our participants who are listening, in case you have a question, on your screen, there's a tab called Written More. You can click on that tab and then you'll get other tabs. If you have a question or if you have a comment, just click on the tab Written More and then you'll find a place written Q&A. You can post your question or your comment there. For those who may not be able to hear us quite well, there's an option, the same button, More. There's an option written Show Captions. You'll click on that, then whatever it is that is being said here will be written on the screen to help you to also follow us. Thank you very much. We'll also share our social platform media. You can be able to also follow us. Thank you. So allow me to go back to Anne and Dotto. Having listened to Alphonse, Morgan, and Edita speak about the experiences, my question is, why do you think stigma is such a persistent barrier to mental health?
Yes, Nerea.
Yes, I'm here, Dotto.
It was breaking, so I don't know if whether it's me or someone else. Thank you.
I think you can just speak it. My question is, having listened to Alphonse speak, Morgan, and also Edita, as a mental health expert, my question is, why do you think stigma is such a persistent barrier to mental health care?
Thank you, Nerea. Thank you for such a wonderful question. Very tricky, but also it's a question that I think everybody here experienced this, if not now, maybe previous or later. But I would like to maybe to answer this in a very practical way. I understand, Nerea, you can lead us into this. I understand we have colleagues who are listening from different places. Maybe let me just pose a question. Can we now go back to our chat box? Actually, Nerea, you said the Q&A is on More, but it's just here. You can just see it on the screen. So maybe we can just go on the chat box and do something quickly. Let me pose even to us speakers. Let me pose this question. How many of us believe it's just a belief? So don't run away from this question. It's just a belief, not necessarily to be right. How many of us believe they're in typical sound mind right away, right now as we're speaking? Can you go in the chat box? Let's go in the chat box. Let's chat. How many believe that they're in a sound mind? However, they're also having this calm mind as we are speaking right now. Can you go in the chat box? And Nerea, please, you're going to read maybe the response of our colleagues.
Okay.
In Swahili tunasema nani ambaye anadhani yuko timamu. Nadhani Alphonse anaweza akawa timamu zaidi. Nani anadhani yuko timamu na nadhani ana utulivu as we are speaking right now. Not necessarily, not necessarily you're right or wrong. We can just go on the chat box and then do something quickly as we are proceeding with this session. Nerea, if there's anyone responding, we can respond also the panelists. We can respond on this question. Yes.
Editor has said, I believe that my utulivu iko at 40%.
Editor, I'll come to you. We need to process this before we proceed. Next.
I'm still waiting.
Yes, please.
Alphonse has mentioned that he thinks he has trauma.
Sorry, Alphonse. Sorry, editor. It's gonna be well. It's gonna be well. Is there any response from our listeners?
Yes. Wycliffe has said 60%.
60%. All right.
Anna said siko na imani, not so sure. They keep coming.
Let them come. You know, we should make this practical. When you're speaking of mental health, most of us, most of African countries, we tend to go very far. We tend to go to mental illness. But when you're talking about mental health, we are just talking about to live on our timam. That's it. So sometimes we might bypass the reality. We might bypass the major issue that we can discuss, or the major issue that are really on the ground that everybody can access, and then we go to beyond to what we're not supposed to go there. So that's why I'm asking this, so that we can process some of the things, and then we can at least understand this scenario better. Any more responses?
Let me check. Just a moment. Let me check here. Somebody has said, Claire has said they are not so sure. Silas has said 45%. Somebody has said I am 50-50. I don't think I am at 100. It's just that I have built resilience over time to cope. Yeah.
All right. Any more? I want now to proceed to what I want to say.
I'll read as they come.
Okay. Thank you. Now, definitely we have seen, as I said during my introduction, no one is immune. When you're talking of well-being of an individual, or we're talking about mental health, no one is immune in that case, because we are facing a lot of scenarios. And this now take me to declare that even in here, in this panel, in this session, to some extent, we are all carrying the intergenerational trauma. Some of colleagues they've shared that they really feel like no, something's not okay, something is wrong. But in one way or another, we carry this because we are in the world that is full of different scenarios and full of different events that are really putting us in some situation which sometimes it's even hard to speak about. Maybe let me basically respond on this on just to maybe three things. Number one of the most important things to understand in this case, there are three things which are very important. Number one is event. I normally call this EX, and I'm going to call this EF and EX. So there is event, then there is event, there is the experience, and there is effect. You will agree with me, what we are suffering from, the so-called trauma. Any trauma has a history, and the history comes out of an event. And any trauma and an event should have an experience. That experience leads someone into effect, whereby now we came to know all these things, or these things but come to be visible when you're looking on behaviors of an individual. Now, these three things are very, very important as we're going to dive in this matter. When you're talking about stigma, in some extent, I can say there is no stigma without a certain event, a certain experience, and effect of what has happened. Today we are crying for this because we are product of maybe a certain bad experience that I or you have gone through. Now we have different experiences depending on maybe culture, places we are coming from, but also we have this experience that we experience as maybe as a community or as a country with all these individual, maybe individual and family stuff. But there is something that is very vital when you are speaking or when you're talking about the stigma that is in our countries. And actually, when we're talking about stigma in our country, we literally talk about the stigma that we carry as adult individuals. Now, there's something that I would like to share with the colleagues and friends who are here. Stigma, why stigma is a barrier? Most of us, we don't want even to speak about these things because once maybe you go to attend a mental health session, people see you that you're weak. Like leaders are supposed to be weak. They're supposed to be strong. They're supposed to be unbreakable. So this is one of the part which hinder the healing process of most of defenders, we can say most of leaders, talking of human rights, talking of mental health. And I can tell you, surely, even we as mental health practitioners, if I ask my friend my sister Nerea, when was your last time to attend to go for therapy, personal therapy? Maybe you can be a specimen for us. When is the last time to go for personal therapy?
This year I haven't gone. I went last year around November.
Last year. And let me ask you now a gentle question. How many fujo at the middle here mutanazo from November? Beat it work, beat it family, beat it relationships, beat it work and everything. There are a lot, right?
Lot.
So we carry things, and sometimes we find ourselves serving people while we have also our own burdens. So weakness sometimes hinder the individuals to receive their sound mind or well-being of an individual. But sometimes also it's about judgment. You see the things of saying you are supposed to be non-judgmental, but in real sense, I'm telling you, friends, if today maybe Dotto as a psychologist, you hear maybe Dotto is hospitalized in Mirembe. We have a hospital, a mental health hospital called Mirembe in Dodoma. If some people will hear that Dotto is in Mirembe and Dotto is a psychologist, what do you think will happen? No one, or it might be no one will be even able to come back to Dotto, but not knowing that even Dotto is struggling with a lot. So this is very important. That's why I'm saying no one is immune in this case. But another thing, when we're talking about stigma, there's the loss of status. For instance, in case of leaders or human rights defenders, or name them, maybe mental health professionals or advocates. Sometimes we are in the position we want to protect more our status, but we don't want to protect our feelings. We don't want to protect our emotions. We're in emotional crisis. We practice emotional bypass, which is actually in a mere language, maybe you can say that's denial. Because denial is just an emotional bypass. You know the reality that I'm struggling, but you don't want to show people that you're struggling because you fear to lose your status. And this is incredible dangerous when it comes to stigma. Because how the society will take you, or how the society will picture you as a leader or someone who is standing for other people. But another thing is the silent culture that we have. It might be a silent culture, or it might be a masculinity culture. You know, it's quite known, very well known, that when you're a leader and when you're a man, you don't need to show up that you're weak, and you don't need to show up that you're going through this pain. It's a cultural thing, but it's really, really putting us in a very bad situation when it comes to our individuals' well-being. So it's very important to understand that stigma hinder our healing, just because we are not trying to center on our self, but we are trying to center on the community, how the community will look on these matters. That's why it's even very important to make a lot of noise or to preach issues concerning mental health to our societies. So that when the society understand and be aware of these issues, we might be in a position now to come out and be courageous enough to speak that I, as a therapist, I'm vulnerable also when it comes to mental health. If I'm experiencing some hardship in my marriage, I might be vulnerable to fall or to undergo mental crisis. So this will be very important. I really thank Inuka for kind of this platform, because this platform can bring us together discussing these matters. If you ask me, how many times maybe Kenyans, Tanzanians, and Ugandans met for issues concerning mental health, the rare cases maybe. For instance, this week we have a mental health summit held in Dodoma, but I don't think if there are some Kenyans who have been invited to come and maybe speak or sharing information, sharing some ideas, sharing issues concerning mental health, also all my colleagues from Uganda. So I think this platform, it's a very good that we are here to discuss the matter, but also to make sure that the awareness goes viral, so that we may be able at least to lower the effect of the stigma that is in our societies. Let me just end there before I say some of the things which I think I'll say them when we are ending up there. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor. That was quite comprehensive. Allow me to mention a few things also that have been responded to. Richard says that in Kenya, it is estimated that 1 in 4 people has a common mental health disorder. That is according to the Ministry of Health Task Force on Mental Health. And that the 2022 National Mental Health Survey found that 44.3% of adolescents between 10 to 17 had a mental health problem in the past 12 months, while 12.2% met full diagnostic criteria for mental health disorder. Somebody, Frederick, has said that I think ni 45% because naweza kuwa na mental health challenge. Somebody else has said no. I think basically that's it. So I thank you, Doctor, for that comprehensive response. I think one of the challenging part when it comes to addressing issues around mental health and mental well-being is stigma, and stigma can be looked at different components. Allow me to invite Anne. Anne has been quiet, to also just share with us how stigma is a persistent barrier to mental health from a practice perspective. Anne is from Kenya. Anne, karibu sana.
Thank you, Nera. Stigma in association to mental health, and especially in African countries, has been really big, because when an individual seeks for help, mental wise, you are regarded as a weak person, and that in itself has made it difficult for a lot of them to be able to seek help. Now, Alphonse, I think, if I'm not wrong, spoke about a colleague who, I don't know whether it was a colleague or someone he knows who was sodomized, but could not speak about it because they would be regarded as a weak human being. When that happened, this individual should have, sought for help psychologically, mentally, and physically. But it took the intervention of someone else to point that one out. Lack of knowledge is also a factor that contributes to individuals not being able to seek for help. In the African setup, we are just now embracing mental awareness. I think this is an issue that should be put so much in awareness so that every individual can be able to know that you can seek help when you're going through some kind of trauma. And that you should not fear. On top of that, there's a self-stigma. A lot of individuals feel that, if I seek for help, people will regard me badly, negatively. And sorry to say this, as Africans, when you do that, we are regarded as, you're just regarded as a weak human being. Our culture does not allow us to be able to seek help, and especially, when it comes to mental health. So, to add to that, I would say we need more awareness on the mental health, wellness, to allow people to be able to speak about the traumas that we go through. And it's a lot. It's a lot. It starts from, if I'm speaking to millennials here, when you're children growing up, what was seen as you not being able to perform, what was seen as you being able to connect to your emotions, what was seen as you reacting to some of the challenges you had was seen as weak. And in turn, of course, it shaped the characters that you have right now. And the trauma is still there as an adult. So I think I will leave it at that when we discuss stigma. It's an African cultural ingrained perception where we do not seek help, because if we do, God forbid, we are weak. Back to you, Nerea.
Thank you, Anne, for that. Somebody has said here that across East Africa, stigma and silence create predictable behavioral vulnerability, hesitation, isolation, and self-sabotage. Opponents of civic space exploit these patterns to neutralize leaders without firing a shot. Same in the UK. And having listened to Dotto and having listened to Anne, I think one of the things that is coming out very clearly is that every one of us has some mental health challenges. It's probably the level or the degree that really matters, because every day we are exposed to different challenges, and different challenges bring different mental health challenges. One of the things that has also stood out as I was listening is the nature of the work that civic actors do already predisposes them to mental health challenges. And therefore, taking care of oneself is something that should be a priority, not just at an individual level, but also at a community level. I've heard about vulnerability. Sometimes we feel so vulnerable. So then even sharing the challenges that we experience can be very difficult. Sometimes we have generational trauma. These are the traumas that you inherit. You inherited a trauma in the family. You already have the trauma. Chances of you transferring it to somebody else is also very high. So having listened to the stigma and the silence that accompanies mental health and also well-being, my question goes to my panelists again. That is Editor, Alphonse, and Morgan. Having worked in the civic spaces, I heard Morgan say that there's an incident where he helped somebody to break the silence. I've heard the editor talks about some of the interventions that they've adopted at an institutional level to prioritize their wellness. So my question is, can you share with us an instance or a story where breaking silence reduced stigma? Because we're saying stigma is already there. So how do we reduce this stigma and strengthen our resilience so then we can be able to do the work that we do? I'll leave it open. Thank you.
Mary, I think I can go first.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I think that the scenario I was giving, okay, it's another story which also involves breaking silence. We're dealing with, again, post-eviction victims in the Albertine region. For those who do not know, the Albertine region here in Uganda is where the oil activities are happening to the far west of Uganda. It's around 500 kilometers away from the capital. So we're representing these victims of land eviction, evictions that were fueled by the oil exploration or activities in that area. So one of the tools that was being used by the perpetrators or the violators was rape. So raping of especially women. So we get into this community, and the stories of rape are obviously we're running around the communities, but the communities could hardly identify who the victims are, and also the victims could not come out and speak openly about it. But until we got, there were around two couples and they were open. But of course, it took a lot of time, like engaging them. You hear these stories and you ask them if they're comfortable sharing those stories. You make sure that we have a female on the team who can probe more and more and more until they were comfortable to break these stories to us. And then we of course took them through the processes, the implications of coming out and identifying as rape victims, and until these two couples come out. And when I say two couples, I mean two sets of couples who came out, and then they were comfortable sharing their stories. And eventually, we saw other victims also come out and also share their stories. So, of course, they are victims, and the communities where they come from started appreciating that they are victims, but also their husbands also started appreciating that they're victims. It's not something that they did with their own will. So eventually, because of coming out, the stigma that was surrounding the whole story somehow vanished. Of course, I can't say that on the scale of 10 to 100% or 10 out of 10 that the stigma really went, but at least the majority of the members of the community accepted these people and also appreciated the ordeal that they had gone through. And other institutions were very instrumental, especially religious leaders were very instrumental in that process of making sure that the victims had the comfort of coming out. So we engaged traditional leaders as well, and all other civil society organizations in making sure that we help these victims. So eventually, the reason why of course, the reason as lawyers, typical lawyers, the reason why we pushed them to come out of that shell was we wanted justice for the victims, but eventually we realized that we helped them socially as well when they came out. That's relief that most of them got, and eventually, even when we went to court, they are comfortable telling their story. And also, we haven't got judgment yet, but at least you can see that there's that bit of relief within among them, but also within the families where they come from. So for me, I think that was a big story within my practice that I keep telling. And well, our intentions might have been different, but along the way we learned a lot on how to deal with victims or such kind of victims. So that's it for me.
Thank you, Morgan. I'm hearing creating safe spaces. I'm also hearing solidarity. Alphonse?
Thank you, Nerea. For me, let me speak about my personal story on a breaking silence. And the first things is on my academic predicament. You know, I spent almost 12 good years to realize my bachelor, following the fact that I was expelled from University of Dar es Salaam and blacklisted in my country education system because of my human rights work. So I remember we did a demonstration in 2011, and we were protesting the ideal of sending back the first-year students following the government order by saying that they have no budget to support first-year students in public universities. And by that time, there was a report of Controller Auditor General that there is public fund misembezzlement, but also there is the ghost loans. I mean, ghost students who have been allocated with loans, while the real students were not allocated with loans. So We did diplomatic ways of solving the problems, but the government didn't respond as affirmatively. Then we decided to do a peaceful demonstration. So, of course, after demonstration, we were expelled, including me and my colleagues. I remember the UDism administration had press conference to misinform the public that first we were sent by opposition political party to conduct that demonstration, but also they alleged that we beaten our lectures, but also, of course, we beat a pregnant woman and we caused miscarriages. So that information publicly was taking away a public sympathy for human rights defenders. So I remember the second day, of course, I called a press conference. I hosted the press conference to cross their facts because the public were fed with very wrong information. They didn't state what was the genuine reason for students to demonstrate. So after having that press conference, I remember it is when human rights organizations intervened the situation. You know, we were prosecuted by the government with criminal offenses of doing unlawful demonstration. So after our press conference is where I break silence, and the Legal Human Rights Center, together with Tanganyika Law Society, provided a legal aid so as to have advocates who will represent us before the courts. But also, following my human rights work, I have 3 abduction attempts in my country. You know, I have been attempted to be abducted by the people who, they come like they are unknown assailants, but later, after our discoveries, we discover that it is police officers, but also Presidential Security Unit Force, together with unknown assailants. So my 3 abduction attempts, I never been silent. You know, I tried to write in my social media platforms, but also write formally to human rights organizations so as to highlight the incidences of abductions. And the third one was on the 5th December 2024, when I was attempted to be abducted by people who came like unknown assailants, but because there was CCTV cameras, it captured them. Later, we discovered that those were police officers. So I break silence by not staying silent. And I wrote my incidences to human rights organizations, and it helped me because after I shouted, after I wrote that formally to human rights organizations, they supported me, including providing short-term locations for a while until the situation was good in Tanzania. So those are 2 incidences which personally I faced, and I see how it is very important not to remain silent when you are suffering and you have personal hardships. And that's why up to date, I'm the creature of a human rights organization in Tanzania. They have been supporting me because they know that I have passion in human rights, and they know my work, and they never been silent. So I encourage others not to remain silent when you face these predicaments like I faced it. Thank you, Nerea.
Okay. Thank you, Alphonse. I think one of the things that is coming out very profound from what you just mentioned, your experience, is talking about it, choosing not to go silent, but to speak about it. And in speaking out, there was a lot of support that came out. If I go back to editor, I know you've mentioned a few steps, a few interventions that your organization has taken. And then my question now goes, what steps for people who are working in human rights spaces? The human rights space, the civic space is shrinking, and it has continued to shrink. Yet the work has to continue. So looking at that, what practical steps can civic organizations generally take to create safe spaces for dialogue? How do we create these spaces to bridge the gap of stigma, to bridge the gap of silence, to bridge the gap of mental health, mental wealth? How do we work on this How do we create these spaces? What can be done?
Thank you so much, Nerea, and my colleagues as well. That was really profound. And personally, I'm here as well to gain knowledge because this is a serious matter. And for the longest time, mental health was not discussed in a capitalist African communities. And it is something that for the longest time, our families didn't prioritize. I love the name of the subject of today, breaking silence, because our communities, even if you are suffering, then you tend to keep quiet. It is your own business. We don't need to share. So today we are reminding ourselves the importance of breaking the silence and as well as building the community. It is a very powerful topic, if you'll ask me. Before then, I want to share a small experience as well. Last year, we were attacked while we were organizing as women in Kenya. After protests, we lost so many young people, women and young women shared their experiences of sexual violence when they were on the protests. And then that pushed us to come together to organize for a press conference at Kenya Human Rights Commission offices. So before we started our protests, these young people came and really attacked us. So when they were attacking us, some of them were saying they were sent even to rape us at Kenya Human Rights Commission offices. So when we were inside there, I decided like, no, if we are quiet, and I was just looking at myself as a ghetto woman, as a ghetto girl, and I could resonate with the language and with them. So I gathered courage, just go and speak to them. And luckily, when I was speaking to them, they heard our voices through me. And I told them, it is okay. We are going to leave the premises. We are not going to do the press conference. And please don't rape us. And I think one of them was really resonating with me specifically. And then he gave us like 10 minutes to evacuate the premises. It was not easy because we had minor injuries, women human rights defenders, the items were stolen, and we had mixed feelings and experiences during that time. So this is a reminder when we are breaking the silence and we are building collective support on how we need to revive collective community care. In African communities, healing has always been collective. When we hear stories, evening stories, when we read our African traditional books, and we can reduce stigma by creating safe circles where people like us can openly talk, listen, check on each other, and heal together without judgment. Because what has come here from most of us is the judgment that comes with when you share your experience. And people are really silent and they're going through a lot. So we as leaders and activists, when we speak openly about our mental health, then people will start normalize seeking for support and reducing shame. And I love the challenge, Nerea, because every single day you meet a kina editor who have different issues. Then as much as you are our therapist, then the question is, have you built a support circle with other therapists as well? Have you built also a support circle with us so that we can also normalize to look at you as a human being? Because sometimes we feel like at a therapist, they don't go through the issues that we go through. That is an assumption. But here you are a human being and you are vulnerable. Then for me, reviving collective community care will build and create safe spaces for every one of us. Then again, as an activist who is very loud and mouthy in this country, is how then do we integrate wellness into our daily activism? This one is key. Before you do any activism work, you need to pause. Think about yourself, think about your security, think about your mental health. We need to stop treating rest as a mental health. We need to stop treating rest and mental health as a luxury. I remember when we were growing up and people could tell us that their stories, especially people who did well in school, and people could tell us, personally, I'm a slow learner, and how people used to motivate me was, there is this daughter of somebody who she doesn't sleep. When she's reading, she will put water in the basin and then they will read for 2 hours. You see, like, I understand that was their situation, but again, it is really traumatizing. Why should I read books in such certain conditions? So we need to look at it in a very different way. Organization and organizations should institutionalize wellness through regular check-ins. Like, for example, at Feminist Center, we do it every Monday. We seek for counseling support. We work with Akina Nerea, Akina Salima. We also have Rest Day. And I will speak about Menstrual Health Day that is coming on 28th May. It is a huge thing, especially as women human rights defender, because every month most of us experience menstruation. Do we have rest days for those days? If you are working with women here, do they have rest days that are deliberate? Because some of us experience different experiences, like some of us have fibroids, some of us have endometriosis, some of us have painful cramps, and it is not comfortable with any other woman. They will share the experiences to have menses, and you're multitasking, you're working in the field, you're doing your activism. So even as we need to be deliberate when we talk about rest day and looking at women even differently, and even men as well. Debrief session after crisis. This one came when when we realized most of the time we go for protests, we are hit, we are insulted, we are physically attacked, we are arrested, and then we don't come for debrief sessions. So it is important for us to do debrief sessions after crisis. People who are spiritual and cultural healing practices, these ones are the things that can help us integrate wellness into our daily activism. My last point is about building regional solidarity and protection network, because we know we are the East Africans, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. To be sincere, and I love the question about utulivu wetu leo. Where are we? What is our state today when it comes to our mental wellness and well-being? African civic actors, we face similar struggles across the borders. So by strengthening solidarity between Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania, Mama, nafanya meeting. Tanzania, and even beyond, we can create spaces for shared learning, mentorship, emergency support, and collective protection, knowing that we are not alone, strengthen resilience and hope in our communities. And I will urge, even after this meeting, we should not just it is a one-time event. We need to have this continuous conversation between all these countries, because we know what has happened for the last 5 years. We are living in a small world whereby digital platform has really connected us. So even in our own way, we need to think about how then do we just build a regional solidarity and protection network. And talking about even shrinking spaces, then we need to think about how do we even revive these spaces to be built from a Pan-Africanist point of view. because right now the donor world is shrinking and people think like we will discuss mental health issues because maybe we have grants in our different institutions, but that is not the case. We need to reclaim back the space of mental health. It was there before colonization, and there is a need for us, this generation, to revive that, even to the extent of even our household, because mental health is not about just us seated here looking for solution. But again, when I go home, I'm a different mother. How do I ensure that my children also adapt to matters of mental well-being? How do I, for example, I'm living with a partner who is a man, and sometimes I will wake my daughter when I'm going out, and I'll tell them, one of them is called Shian, wake up and wash the plates kindly. And then she'll tell me, Ama, right now, I'm a bit tired. But again, my partner, because he's not in the space, he feels like that one is disrespecting me. And I remind him all the time, she's communicated, she said she's not feeling well, she's tired. And for me, that is a valid reason, because whatever time, she'll wake up and then she'll ensure that the house is clean and my plates are clean. So that is how we can even normalize this conversation through our actions and decolonizing mental health solution, because it has been very expensive. When we talk about stress, people will think about people should be put in certain medicine so that they can recover such things. But we know in small ways, the small things that we do at home, at work, doing letters to yourself, looking at yourself in the mirror and admiring yourself, such things build and boost our self-esteem and even our mental health, because we live in a toxic community that has reminded us we are not human enough, we are not doing our best, and such things. And lastly, I've just thought about, even at workspace, comparing staffs, comparing activist work. Sometimes it really gives us mental breakdown at work. So how do we bring a collective, how do we build a collective safe space? By just appreciating people the way they are, because we are in a space that we fight every single day inequality, and it means we are different people. But we want to build a collective whereby we realize that we are different people, but again, without judging people harshly. I've seen it in the spaces, and building a space whereby people will feel like, mi hata leo nikiamka, I want to go and activate myself. I want to do this work, because the space have really demoralized so many of us. But again, I know we are here and we can build an alternative community. It is really possible to build a healthy working space, our healthy activism spaces by the resources that we have, even if the spaces are shrinking. Thank you so much. Back to Claire.
Thank you, Editor. That was very, very well elaborated. It has actually, you've responded to most of the questions that I intended to ask. And having listened to what the panelists have said, I think one of the things that is standing out quite a lot here is storytelling and lived experience as a way of managing the silence and also breaking the trauma. So my question goes to the mental health experts. I think for the longest time, mental health has been anchored around talk therapy, of course, with the different interventions that are available. But I think one of the things that is also happening quite recently is the fact that talk therapy is not for everybody. This is from an African context. How can we adopt other interventions? For example, storytelling and lived experience. How can we adopt it or integrate it into interventions, especially around mental health and mental well-being? This question goes to Dotto and also Anne, and please try to make it short because of time. Thank you.
Anne, please start. Ladies first. Thank you.
Thank you, Dotto. I'll just be very brief, and then maybe you can expand on it. Storytelling is a very powerful tool because from time immemorial, we've had folklores and stories that have been given, to us, and we pass them on to, the next generation. And from that, it has shaped, rather helped us be able to deal with certain situations. Now, when it comes to this particular subject, it creates empathy, because when you get to listen to someone else saying their story and you feel, okay, I'm not alone in this, it will help in giving you that comfort and strength to be able to face what you're going through, and the feeling of you not being alone in that challenge that you're going through. It makes it easier for you to be able to tackle whatever issue you're having, and it makes it normal, like it's just not you going through this. We are many out there who have gone through this or are going through this, and it also builds trust. So, Doctor, I think and I believe that you have a better narrative for this. So I'll give you the space to continue.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Nerea. Actually, Nerea, you don't want us to break our silence, eh? Anyway, let me try to be brief. But from the experience, I remember last year we had it's a session. No, we had a retreat with some of the civic actors. I'm telling you, it's wonderful to sit, discuss, maybe play together, uh, talking. Even the talking cycle help us a lot. Especially personally, when most of the time when I have training, because most of the time my work is about training, of course, counseling and psychosocial support. Many times I see um, these talking cycles helps a lot, and even put us in a very good platform before even we start our sessions. Beat whether it's a mental health session, whether it's just operation excellence sessions about maybe soft skills. I don't start any session before putting people together and speak about just the mere normal things like life, homes, families, maybe about something about work, or just these just normal challenges. So this is very important, very very important. When it comes to storytelling, actually is the healing space. This is about collective care that my sister have been talking about, and collective care is all about taking us to healing. Then we when we are breaking silence in this, we are getting a picture of sharing, healing, but also building an individual's resilience towards difficulties and towards emotional crisis. So it actually, when you look on Tanzania, maybe let me just say something. We had this back in the days, some comedians used to say wakati wa mwalimu, wakati wa mwalimu. So they were just bringing up stories about wakati wa mwalimu, Mwalimu Nyerere, of course, wakati wa mwalimu. So these were things that remind us on maybe ujamaa and all of those things. In Tanzania, the ujamaa thing, actually it's a big picture that brings people as ujamaa. But friends, do we know that when you're talking about well-being, it's an individual thing? It's not a group thing. That's why we are still struggling even in Africa. You know, in Africa, yes, we have these clan issues, family, and the social gathering that helps a lot for healing and everything. But I think if there is something that you are supposed now to invest much time on it, it's about the individual's well-being. And this is where there is a very big gap. No one is speaking about that. I said this earlier. If you hear that so and so, maybe a certain leader or a certain mental health practitioner fall into mental challenge, or he is now hospitalized because of the mental crisis, no one will be able again to go maybe to engage with this person as normal. It will be something that has been putting a remarkable or a Satan picture, labeling this person because of the situation that he is in through. But the very important part, as I'm finalizing, storytelling, maybe members, we should know that. Of course, Nelly has said it that not necessarily talk therapy work to everyone. Yes, it's true. But do we know that actually when we are going to share is when we're starting now normalize and we're starting now feeling that, oh, akumbe, I'm not alone. So it's also storytelling, in other words, is a medicine towards healing. It might not put you to that healing completely, but it's a burden sharing with the colleagues and friends. So let's shout, let's preach about this. Let's talk about issues concerning mental health. Let's try to talk about stigma, the stigma that is overwhelming individuals. I'm crying for the individuals. Let's forget about the community. When we're dealing with individuals, the community will definitely heal. Thank you, Nerea.
Thank you, Dotto. I hope I didn't put you on the spot. Please keep on the questions. You can keep the questions. Any comment? Allow me to read a comment here from Richard.
Nerea, sorry, there's a question that was asked and then I've answered it, I think, on the chat box. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dotto. Richard says, editor and Anne seems to know that everyone's story matters. No one gets to decide whose pain is valid and whose isn't. We are not here to blame individuals for systemic failures. The problem isn't you. The problem is the environment that makes civic work so hard. But change comes from within. We're not just talking about mental health. We're building a family of people who look out for each other. If we burn out our leaders, we lose the fight. Mental health isn't just about personal wellness. It's about movement, survival, and what survival does should be patient eccentric. I believe she knows about techniques like David's rocks, and that is an acronym for SCARF, and how that brings resilience and hope. And even as we near towards the end, allow me to ask almost the last question. And this one goes to Morgan, to Edith. I know Edith has really elaborated quite, but she also mentioned something about solidarity. So as we end this webinar, what role can regional solidarity play in sustaining wellness and resilience? I think we've all agreed that there's need for mental wellness among civic spaces. There's need for us to build resilience. Not just once, but this is something that a conversation that needs to be continuous. So for my brothers in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, and also for editor, what role can regional solidarity play in sustaining wellness and resilience among human rights defenders, and specifically the civic space? Thank you. You can make it short and sweet. Thank you.
I think no one is going first. Let me go first again. So,
okay.
I think solidarity is very important. And when Vito was talking about the mental health conference that is about to happen in Tanzania, I thought he was going to extend an invitation to me. anyhow. So I think we need to build these communities so that we can learn from each other. I know the things that have happened in Uganda that maybe are yet to happen at human rights defenders in Kenya. The situation may be worse in Tanzania. So exchanging experiences um, would be very important in arming ourselves even before those experiences happen. But if they're already happening, then we can pick lessons. So there's a lot that I've learned from this space that I didn't know. So if we continue having these conversations, then I think it will be a big plus because we don't want to get locked in our small echo chambers as specific countries because you find that you're facing the same challenges. Maybe you're pushing for the same solutions, and maybe they're not working. So yet the people who have lived your same experiences even about 5 years ago, and they could be very useful. I was in Nairobi a few months ago, and that's when I meet Comrade Alphonse and others. And there's a lot I learned from them. So, and I have a feeling if I had not had that chance to meet Alphonse and other colleagues, there's a lot that I wouldn't have learned. So I think uh, as a region, we should be speaking in the same room and then break these small echo chambers that we're in and have bigger spaces where we can easily learn from and also share experiences. So for me, that's it.
Thank you, Morgan. Alphonse, I'm an editor. Who wants to go first?
Let me compliment what Council Morgan has spoken on cross-border solidarity, but also we can have a regional wellness particularly to recognized human rights defenders from our country, so as of course to share our stories, to document. So regional wellness retreats might be a very prosperous solution for our context. But lastly, let me speak about relocation support. I think we should think on it because relocation support is part of well-being to human defenders. You know, most of recognized human defenders are facing unlawful arrest, unlawful detention, abductions, enforced disappearances. So sometimes we can think on how we can provide the temporal support according to the risk, but also we can think on permanent location support for those human defenders who are at risk. So that's my fair comment there.
Thank you, Alphonse. Editor?
Well, thank you so much, colleagues. And for me, I agree that we need to strengthen cross-border protection and rapid response because we've really shared experiences, and especially when police will just wake up in the morning and arrest you for the work that you are doing, and we don't have supports, collective supports, and we cannot respond rapidly with the need on the ground. So that one is very critical. Let us strengthen the cross-border protection and rapid response. And something else is looking at reviving community-based healing, solidarity circles, storytelling, and intergenerational support, but again, doing different activities that will bridge the intergenerational gaps that have been existing. We know the power of storytelling. We understand the power of even documenting the work that we've done. And we've seen even books like Holy Book and Quran, if they were never documented, today people could not be Christians or Muslims. So for us also to mobilize more people in the space we need to share beautiful stories of the work that we do with love and care. I'm thinking about how then do we build people-centered solidarity beyond the borders, talking about Pan-Africanism, solidarity that will strengthen hope and collective resilience, and also understand that we can be attacked in this civic space, but when we are together, it becomes even easier to go through tough experiences. Normalizing wellness in liberation movements is also key for me, because already it is not normal. People feel like it is not our thing. But again, how do we normalize wellness? The last one is decolonize mental health in the language that grassroots people will understand. It is okay when you are sick, stay at home. But again, capitalism world will tell you, Nerea, we are giving you 21 days to go for your sick of. That is not the case, because we have sickness that are long-term. We are African people. We know we have sickness that will go even beyond 21 days. Let people relax when they are sick. We build a space whereby when a woman is going for maternity leave, we don't dictate that they need to go for 3 months. Nerea, you are a woman and you know how you understand it. You know how it feels when you leave your baby to go to work. So it is us who are in this space, and we can build, and it is possible to build alternative community and decolonize, deconstruct how mental health looks like in today's world, in a capitalist world. Thank you.
Thank you, Edita. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate your responses. And even as we end this conversation, I think one of the things that is coming out very important is the need to normalize wellness in every spaces that we have. The need to prioritize wellness at an individual level and even as a community. And as we end, this one goes to Doto and Anne. Are there any evidence-based or culturally grounded practices that we can be able to adopt to normalize mental health conversations? What other evidence-based practices can we be able to adopt to normalize mental health conversations?
And should you start or I start?
Just go ahead, Dot, and we'll pick it from there.
Maybe before I jump onto that, maybe let me mention just 2-3 things. It's very important. We are talking about the cross-border solidarity. Very important to basically talk about the policies that should be in place. We're talking about the debriefing that has been spoken, but also the ongoing awareness and training. It's very important as we are starting now, like in this webinar. These are very important to speak about them so that we can have things that guide us to walk on the straight way. Just maybe to be brief, we have Ubuntu that has been spoken, that I am because we are. I think this is about it's about collective care. Tanzania tuna ujamaa. I think most of us East African, we have heard of that. But apart from that, the issue that my sister have been talking about, decolonizing the mental health approaches and everything to make them, or to bring them in Afrocentric approaches, it is something that they have been talking. They have been talking on it on different scenario and different arena. Especially was in Pan African Psychology Union conference. These have been spoken a lot, that we make sure our approaches, they're Afrocentric per se, so that they will the of Africans, depending and everything like that. But what it's most important I think this is most important when we come to Africa. It's a holistic approach. When you're talking about holistic approach, you should come to understand that there is a spiritual part of it, there's emotional part of it, there is a psychological part of it, there is physical part of it, but also there's the spiritual part of it. These are things that when these approaches you practice them to Africans, you'll end up get a penetration point that will help some to heal, and you help someone to make a step on his or a mentor. Nalea,
Yeah, you're done?
I'm done. I'm up. You
Okay,
say
thank you.
briefly, or should I continue? I have more.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay.
Maybe one
And
thing, Nalea,
make it
because
brief.
you're just quiet. Let me just say this. I'm now shifting personally. I'm the director of Emirati Consulting Company, but I'm now shifting from the consulting company to a community of to a well-being community. So I think we'll work together on this, because when you look on the these other community of faith-based communities, they are coming strong and stronger because the individual or faculty does not being plotted with the organizational thing. So I think this is very important for us to understand the issues of mental health now. We should really make noise and we should really preach about them, but measuring on individual perspective. Thank you.
Yes, and make it short.
Just as the politicians, go to church and and they do the thing and they give the manifesto, that is the same way we also need to make an awareness for mental health. And also in spaces like what we're having right now with the webinar. And also, I will add the youth. With, what happened back then with the Gen Z, and I'll just say this, politically, they made a statement. Through them, we can also do a mental, wellness awareness with them. So just to add to what Dr. said, we should normalize this.
Okay.
Because it's a basic necessity right now. It should be added to the hierarchy, I believe. Thank you, Nerea. Back to you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, everyone. This has been very, very, very educative. And as we end the webinar, allow me to invite each and every one of you to just make a parting shot. We'll start with Alfonso. Any parting shot? Dotto, parting shot?
Well, thank you, Nerea. First, it was wonderful being this discussion. Secondly, as leaders, as mental health practitioners, and whoever who is in civic space, please, the goodness begins with us. Let's care about our emotional faculty. Let's care about our physical faculty. Let's care about our spiritual faculty. And this is about well-being of an individual, because we are not immune when it comes to crisis. We all face challenges and we cannot run away from them. So mental downtime is very important for us. And mental downtime, it doesn't need you to start learning about stress management. Please create time for your calmness. Thank you.
Editor, parting shot.
Thank you so much, Nerea, and all the participants plus panelists. I'm getting out of this space so much powered because these are the things that we need to hear on a daily basis. My parting shot is that as civic actors like us, we cannot pour from an empty cups. The work of human rights and the liberation must also include, this is just a reminder, healing, rest, safety, and collective care. As Africans, our strength has always been in community and solidarity. Let us normalize mental health conversation, protect one another, and build movements where people are not only surviving the struggle, but also living, healing, and thriving within it. Thank you.
Thank you, Editor. Anne?
Thank you so much for including me in this forum. I'll reiterate on what Editor has said. We need to normalize mental wellness, awareness across all counties, all communities.
Okay.
We need each other. We need to make it a basic necessity. Thank you all.
Thank you, Anne. Alphonse?
Thank you, Nerea. I think it's very important to target these human rights defenders, soldiers of justices, because including journalists, human defenders, political activists, because these are people who stand on behalf of the society. They speak on behalf of the people who can't speak. So I think that should be, wellness programs should target them. But also, of course, I'm healed. I used to have trauma after listening to brother, daughter, and Anne. I think I'm healed now. Thank you.
Thank you, Alphonse. And lastly, we have Morgan.
Thanks, Maria, for the invitation. I've learned a lot from this space, but also I would like to emphasize what I think Editor says, that you cannot pour from an empty cup. So as human rights defenders on this call, we should be very deliberate about taking care of our mental health, because that's the only way we can serve the rest of the people that we are serving each and every day. But also, I also want to agree with Alphonse that we need to emphasize regional networks, because some of the issues, just like I said, some of the issues that we face are not necessarily new. Some people have faced them. So for me, that's my key parting shot for this discussion today. Otherwise, thank you very much, and I'm waiting for Dito's invitation for the mental health conference in Dar es Salaam.
Okay. Thank you, Morgan. Thank you, team. This indeed has been a very beautiful conversation that has captured a lot of interventions that we really need to focus on. I'm hoping that it's not just going to be a one-off, but a conversation that we are going to continue. For me, today's conversation has reminded us that silence is not neutral. It can deepen stigma and also weaken resilience. And therefore, when we break the silence by sharing our stories and then we create safe spaces, that's where healing begins for individuals and also as community. So the insights from our civic actors and mental health experts this evening has really been very, very insightful. And I hope that our participants have really benefited. Especially on solidarity across our region as a powerful force for systemic engagement. So as we leave the webinar, let us carry forward what we've actually discussed here, the commitment to normalize mental health conversation, embed wellness in our institutions and also organization, and also continue building communities where healing begins, and then we add stigma. So from everybody, thank you very much for attending, and also for giving us time or creating time to listen to us. Thank you very much.